weekend, reigning WBO middleweight champion Savannah Marshall is going to be returning to action against Femke Hermans, and on the undercard, we're going to see her old buddy April Hunter attempt to rebound off the loss to Kirsty Bavington. We're going to see
Georgia O'Connor.
Going to see one of Wasserman Boxing's unbeaten up-and-comers, Chloe Watson, who we talked about here on the channel. She's going to be fighting on that card as well. Several other unbeaten up-and-comers, Hosea Stewart, Bradley Rhea, you know the drill.
Florian Marco.
It's a lot of fights, and I want to say that I'm quite confident that Savannah Marshall will make it past Femke Hermans. I've seen a lot of Femke Hermans over the years. A slow-footed plotter, not much hand speed, not much power, perhaps more durable than Lolita Musea, who Savannah Marshall faced in her last fight, the last time out.
Lolita was a welterweight that moved up in weight.
Whereas Femke Hermans comparatively has spent more time than Lolita did at or around middleweight. Physically, she might be more adept to the task, though ultimately, I think she's going to suffer the same fate as Lolita Musea. Without the sharpness, the movement, the speed to get out of the way of Savannah Marshall's punches, I think Femke is going to get stopped.
I think the aesthetic of this fight is going to be very similar to the Henna-Rankin fight.
Henna-Rankin, who was stopped by Savannah Marshall some time ago. I think the aesthetic of this fight is going to be very similar to that fight. And bear in mind, Henna-Rankin, like Femke Hermans, is a durable fighter. Tough.
But like Henna, I think Femke's going to get stopped. I do.
Yet another common opponent between Savannah Marshall and Clarissa Shields. This weekend's fight is intended to be a prelude ahead of what is to be that fight, that undisputed middleweight contest, undisputed fight between longtime rivals Savannah Marshall and Clarissa Shields. And I'd be lying to you if I told you that Femke Hermans is adequate preparation for someone with the boxing brain and the physical gifts, the physical attributes of a Clarissa Shields. Better preparation for Savannah, I think, would have been a Raquel Miller fight. Raquel Miller, who was supposed to be in action this past weekend, but for
one reason or another, she couldn't fight.
Some mention of an injury by way of Raquel Miller's social media. Raquel, who stated, "I was supposed to fight today, but had to reschedule because of an injury. I'll be back soon, though." Raquel was supposed to participate on a Marv Nation card that took place this past weekend. It featured Yokasta Valle and her younger sister, Adelaida Ruiz, and Maricela Cornejo. Raquel was supposed to join them, but you know the story. She got injured, she couldn't fight, and I think somebody like Raquel, somebody who's a quality operator, would be more adequate preparation for the likes of a Savannah Marshall ahead of what is to be a Clarissa Shields fight than someone like Femke Hermans. Femke is slow, and she's there to be hit.
That's why I think she's going to get stopped.
Whereas Raquel could make herself a harder target than Femke Hermans. Raquel is a more well-schooled, educated boxer than, say, a Femke Hermans, and I think it would have been more adequate preparation for Savannah to prepare herself for someone like Clarissa Shields had she been fighting her or fought her at some point, because I think the world of Savannah Marshall. I think she's one of the best.
She's great, but she hasn't faced the same quality competition as Clarissa.
We often talk about Savannah Marshall's power, her stopping power, and how there's a genuine possibility that she could stop Clarissa Shields. But along with that genuine possibility, there is the alternative, that Clarissa Shields being a lot faster than the girls that Savannah Marshall has fought. Clarissa Shields is quite capable of making herself a hard target. She's got some things working for her as well, and
I do think she's faster than Savannah.
Faster hands and faster feet, though what might offset that speed is the size of Savannah Marshall, Savannah's physical dimensions, the fact she doesn't need to be close to Clarissa to land shots, hard shots, because she's a little taller, a little longer, and she punches a lot harder than Clarissa does. Though power in and of itself means nothing if you can't land, and that's really the question. Savannah, having not fought the likes of a Hannah Gabriels, a Christina Hammer, or a Raquel Miller, you have to wonder,
can Savannah deliver that power on a hard target?
A moving target. Now, make no mistake, I think Savannah Marshall wipes the floor with most girls at around middleweight. As low as junior middleweight to as high as super middleweight. I think Savannah Marshall has a higher ceiling, a much higher ceiling than a lot of these girls, but I think the same is true when it comes to Clarissa Shields, more or less.
I think Savannah's going to rack up another highlight reel knockout this weekend.
If I maintain my original position, knocking out Femke Hermans, taking her on and taking her out, That's not exactly preparation for Clarissa Shields. They're very different fighters.
Goes without saying.
Clarissa Shields herself, ahead of this weekend's fight, stated, LOL, talk about class. Savannah Marshall is classless. But the last chick who talked trash to me after winning, I beat her bad. Christina Hammer. Marshall, you're next. Good luck April 2nd. Hope you win. You get to taste my fist next. You cherry-picking bum.
Cherry-picking?
Not exactly accurate. She's fighting some of the same girls that Clarissa Shields fought. Hannah Rankin, Femke Herman.
Yeah, maybe it's just Clarissa selling a fight.
Very well could be. I don't expect Clarissa Shields, ahead of what is to be her fight with Savannah Marshall, to have very many nice things to say about Savannah.
Trash talk for the sake of trash talk?
Yeah, maybe. Very recently she stated, y'all gotta stop. This girl was a last-minute replacement and a 147-pounder fighting at 160, in reference to Savannah's highlight reel knockout of unbeaten Lolita Musea. And it is true that she was a welterweight that moved up in weight, but she wasn't a last-minute replacement.
Clarissa's one to talk. She fought Ivana Habazin.
She fought her at junior middleweight, Ivana Habazin, that used to campaign as a welterweight. She fought Hannah Gabriels at middleweight, Hannah Gabriels that moved up in weight from junior middleweight for that fight. I mean, it's just a strange criticism, and you kind of just get the sense that what Clarissa's doing at this point is selling the fight.
Doesn't make much sense anyway, and you can't read too much into it.
It's just her way of explaining Savannah Marshall's stopping power, and rest assured, that stopping power is real. Hannah Rankin knows all about that. Femke Hermans is about to find out firsthand, and she's not a short-notice opponent. In men's bantamweight news, I'm sure most of you have heard by now, Inoue versus Donaire rematch set, unification set to take place June 7th at the Saitama Super Arena. That's right, drama in Saitama 2, the site of their initial meeting. Well over a year ago. I think it's been 2 or 3 years now?
A little over 2 years. They initially met in November of 2019.
Naoya Inoue and Nonito Donaire are set to do it again, and with even more at stake the second time around. The world's top 2 bantamweights are officially set for their long-discussed rematch, which BoxingScene.com has confirmed will take place June 7th at Saitama Super Arena in Saitama, Japan. The 3-belt unification for Inoue's WBA, IBF titles at stake, along with Donaire's WBC strap, will be carried live on Japan's Amazon Prime Video. U.S. television distribution rights were not made available at the time of Wednesday's announcement, though BoxingScene.com has learned such plans will be revealed in the coming weeks, and it's conceivable that ESPN and ESPN Plus will show the fight here stateside.
Yeah, because he's a top-ranked fighter.
Whereas Nonito Donaire, he very recently signed with Pro Bellum.
Pro Bellum, which is helmed by Richard Schaefer.
Richard Schaefer, who's been handling Nonito Donaire's career for some time, thus it came as a surprise to no one. But Pro Bellum, they don't have a U.S. broadcast partner.
Whereas Naoya Inoue does by way of Top Rank and ESPN.
I think it'll be ESPN that ends up showing the fight here stateside. That's going to be in the wee hours of the morning for American fight fans that want to see that rematch, want to see that sequel.
It's about fucking time.
Unifications are in order for today's bantamweight division, a division that has stood divided for longer than I would have liked. I mean, this rematch, at least it's here, and that's the saving grace, that's the silver lining. Elsewhere, the reigning WBO champion of the Philippines, John Riel Casimero, he's got to make a mandated title defense against the UK's own Paul Butler.
That's supposed to be going down later on next month at the Echo Arena in Liverpool.
On the 22nd, this fight was supposed to have taken place already, but John Riel Casimero fell ill, had to pull out of the fight. Now the WBO is not giving him much wiggle room. If anything happens to this guy, anything happens that impedes this mandated title defense, this mandated title fight, they're going to strip him of that belt.
That's what the WBO communicated in so many words.
Sounds a lot like they've about had it with this guy. I think something similar is true in reference to Showtime, the Showtime platform, where John Riel Casimero was boxing up until recently. It comes as a surprise to no one that after that god-awful fight with Guillermo Rigondeaux, that stinker, the people over there at Showtime
don't seem to be airing his next fight.
Pro Bellum won the rights to Casimero versus Butler. Paul Butler, one of their fighters, he is a Pro Bellum fighter. This is their card.
The people at Pro Bellum and TGB, Tom Brown Promotions, they were unable to reach a deal.
Couldn't reach a deal by the deadline. The fight ends up going to a purse bid, and Pro Bellum ended up placing the winning bid just above the minimum, by the way. The minimum bid was about $100,000.
Minimum.
Pro Bellum bid just a little over that, $105,000.
They didn't have to bid aggressively to acquire the rights for this fight. I think that says a lot.
I don't get the sense that either TGB Promotions or the Showtime platform are all that interested in hosting any more of John Riel Casimero's fights behind that stinker he just had with Guillermo Rigondeaux. And if you're John Riel Casimero and you make it through Paul Butler, what other fight out there is there for you if you're not looking to fight the winner of Inoue versus Donaire 2? I mean, essentially, that's what I'm getting at. You can move up in weight and see about becoming a champion at 122 pounds, but that fight wouldn't be anywhere near as big a fight with any of those champions that are up there. Stefan Fulton, MJ Akhmadaliev, those are all relatively smaller fights compared to potentially taking on the winner of Inoue versus Donaire 2. If you're John Riel Casimero, that's the fight.
It is.
That's what you ought to be shooting for.
Hopefully, promotional and network politics won't impede the fight.
I don't know that John Riel Casimero is still with Sean Gibbons of Manny Pacquiao Promotions. I don't know that he's still with that guy. I don't know that he isn't.
He's supposed to be returning to action in late April.
Naoya Inoue and Nonito Donaire are supposed to be locking horns for a second time in June. The winner of the fight.
Winner of the fight comes that much closer to becoming an undisputed champion, and the loser gets bumped off the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list.
Both multi-weight champions, both Naoya Inoue and Nonito Donaire, rank in at number 4 and 5 on the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list, and per the rules that govern the list,
No fighter absent of a world title gets to maintain a rank.
neither does any fighter coming right off a loss. To the victor go the spoils, and the list is only for winners and only for champions.
Reigning champions, guys in possession of a belt.
Not guys that perhaps used to have a belt but lost a step around the way, and they're not champions, reigning champions anymore. That's the way that breaks down. A barometer for where the fighter's skills and their abilities are here today. That's essentially why that works the way that works.
That means there's going to be a vacancy. A spot's going to open up in June when the winner of this fight is determined.
That is essentially what that means, and it's too soon here now to tell who's going to occupy it. A guy like Stefan Fulton almost immediately comes to mind. Stefan Fulton, who beat unbeaten Angelo Leo, took his WBO title. He then beat unbeaten Brendan Figueroa, took his WBC title. That's a guy with a strong argument, but so is the winner of Errol Spence Jr. versus Yordenis Ugas, Artur Beterbiev, and the winner of Beterbiev versus Smith. The winner of that fight is someone you want to also consider. I mean, it could be a lot of guys that end up occupying that spot, irrespective of what else might be going on that creates other vacancies on the list. Very exciting times.
There's going to be some changes.
Finally, in light heavyweight and cruiserweight news, Gilberto Ramirez, former WBO super middleweight champion Gilberto Ramirez, says he's willing to move up and face Lunga Makabu for the WBC title.
Good luck with that.
Despite winning the WBA light heavyweight world title eliminator last December to become the mandatory challenger for WBA champion Dimitri Bivol, 43-0 Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez is waiting to crack the gold. Rather than sit and wait or fight in a meaningless tune-up fight, Ramirez is fully prepared to move up in weight once again, this time to challenge WBC cruiserweight champion Lunga Junior Makabu, who sports a professional record.
Sports a pro record of 29 wins, 2 losses with 25 knockouts.
Gilberto was quoted as saying, "I'm always ready to take on anyone. I was hoping to make the Bivol fight, but he took another route. It's definitely disappointing, but I'm glad he was rewarded, Canelo. He's a good guy and definitely has a chance to change his life forever. Now moving forward, as always, I'm open to fighting anyone from light heavyweight to heavyweight, and why not start with cruiserweight? Golden Boy did mention Makabu to me, and if he has the balls to face me, I will snatch that WBC title from him with ease. Despite the weight difference, I would outskill, outspeed, and outfight him in every aspect."
Well, a fight like that would certainly be more interesting than the guys that Zurdo Ramirez has been fighting.
Zurdo Ramirez, who finds himself in a pickle here today. Most of the alphabet titles at light heavyweight are over there at Top Rank. Top Rank, who he parted ways with well over a year ago, something like 2-3 years ago. And, Golden Boy Promotions doesn't seem to have any titles for him to fight for. The only other title at light heavyweight that isn't at Top Rank is over there at Matchroom, and we all know
Canelo Alvarez is going to be challenging Dimitri Bivol for that title very soon.
more and more it's seeming like Zurdo Ramirez's departure from Top Rank, that side of things, that side of the street, was counterintuitive, counterproductive. His career has stagnated even further than it was stagnating before at super middleweight, where he was unable to get a big fight for one reason or another. Chalk it up to the politics of boxing. But at light heavyweight, Top Rank had and still has a lot of ponies in that show, and Zurdo Ramirez parted ways with them at a time where he would have had access to those fights with those fighters. It seems to me like leaving Top Rank wasn't the right decision. It wasn't a right move. It's not aging well.
So now he wants to go up to cruiserweight to take on Lunga Makabu.
Says that he's willing to. Lunga Makabu, 34 years old, is the first and only native of the Democratic Republic of the Congo to be world champion. According to reports, ironically, he was all set to fight Canelo until boxing's rainmaker shifted gears and chose Bivol as his next opponent. Makabu captured his WBC cruiserweight crown January 31st, 2020, when he decisioned Michael Cieslak, followed by two successful title defenses versus
Durdola and a rematch with Machuno.
a dubious decision win in that rematch over Thabisu Muchunu. Better still, a decision that went Lunga Makabu's way. And it's no coincidence that Zurdo Ramirez is looking at Lunga as opposed to one of the other cruiserweight champions in the cruiserweight division, a division that stands divided.
There were 4 world titles split 4 ways between 4 guys, 4 champions.
If Zurdo's looking at Lunga, it's not for no reason. He's looking at Lunga because he knows Canelo Alvarez is looking at Lunga. And Zurdo Ramirez seems to mean to take out the competition. If he can pry the green belt away from Lunga Makabu, he aspires to face Canelo Alvarez. That's what I think the hierarchy of thought is. And he's got the right idea, though he won't have that opportunity. I don't think for a second that Don King is going to gamble his boy.
No, I don't think for a second he's going to loan out Lunga Makabu to Golden Boy Promotions.
So that Zurdo Ramirez can get an opportunity at a time when Lunga Makabu is in the running for a Canelo Alvarez fight. So as far as financial value, there's more value in Makabu versus Canelo than Makabu versus Ramirez.
There's more in it for Lunga Makabu.
Don King's not an idiot. He knows that just as well as I or you. That being said, I don't actually expect Zurdo Ramirez to get that shot, get that opportunity at Lunga Makabu's cruiserweight title.
I think with those things in mind, Don King's going to be very careful how he matches his guy.
To ensure that his fighter stays in the running for a Canelo Alvarez fight, because if he's going to put him in a situation to where the title might change hands, they've got to make it worth his while, him and his fighter.
The only way I could see Zurdo getting an opportunity like that is if Canelo passes on Lunga Makabu.
We're a ways out from that anyway. Canelo Alvarez doesn't mean to fight Lunga until, what, 2-3 fights from now?
Yeah, Zurdo's got the right idea, but he ain't got the opportunity.
And I don't think he's going to get it.